Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Boston University and the Boston Globe Sustainability Summit. My name is Dennis Carlberg. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer here at Boston University. It is a privilege to welcome you here to the Dewan Center for Computing and Data Sciences. Last I checked, at over 360,000 square feet, this is the largest fossil fuel-free, carbon-neutral building in Boston. With 31 1,500-foot deep boreholes, this building harnesses the thermal capacity of the Earth for its heating and cooling. There are no gas lines connected to this building. That is bold, and that allows us to power this building completely with renewable energy. While this is BU's most sustainable building yet, what is important to me is it shows that large buildings can be fossil fuel free in a dense urban environment like Boston. This building is a direct result of our climate action plan, which set a goal to be carbon neutral by 2040, 10 years ahead of the city's goal, not because we're competitive, but if we don't reach our targets and others along with us, the city won't have a chance of meeting its goals by 2050. Our next fossil fuel-free carbon-neutral building is a major renovation of Warren Towers just across Commonwealth Avenue. This residence hall was built in the 60s without insulation. Over the next 3 years, we will be taking this building, which is our largest emitter on campus, to zero emissions. We're taking it off of our carbon footprint. We are also focused on embodied carbon. 28% of global greenhouse gas emissions associated with the building sector come from building buildings. At BU, we are addressing embodied carbon for new construction and major renovations. By renovating Warren Towers, rather than building new, we will reduce its embodied carbon by more than 840%. The electricity these buildings use, and for that matter what the entire university uses, is matched with BU Wind, a 205 million kilowatt-hour power purchase agreement. BU Wind is the second largest single active power purchase agreement by any college or university in the EPA's Green Power Partnership. We're in good company in the top 100 along with Google, Microsoft, and Walmart. BU Wind was a recipient of the EPA's Green Power Leadership Award. In addition, we are adding solar to our campuses, so far totaling over 1.1 million kilowatt hours of electricity generation per year. At its core, Boston University's mission is education and research, empowering our students to become the next generation of leaders in climate action and creating new knowledge that will provide a positive impact in our community and around the world. You will hear more from BU alumni, faculty, and staff throughout the day. Now, it is my privilege to introduce Gina McCarthy. After a distinguished career at the US EPA, Gina serves as co-chair of America is All In, a coalition of leaders assembled to support climate action in the United States. And Gina, I'm proud to say, Boston University is all in. You may know Gina from her time as the first White House National Climate Advisor under President Biden, or as the EPA Administrator under President Obama. However, I know her as a steadfast champion of climate action. I am incredibly honored to welcome her to the stage. And Gina, I was hoping you'd be wearing your cowboy boots, but I think those boots will do just fine to kick some, well, I'll leave that to you. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to Gina McCarthy. Who is joined by Sabrina Shankman, climate reporter for the Boston Globe. I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dennis. Hey, everybody. Great to see you all for this year's Boston Globe Sustainability Summit. As Dennis mentioned, my name is Sabrina Shankman, and I have the pleasure of reporting on climate change at the Boston Globe. We are thrilled to be kicking off today's events with a fireside chat with the one and only Gina McCarthy. Before we dive in, maybe you have heard this, but there should be a QR code somewhere so that if you want to submit some questions, you're welcome to do that while we're chatting, and I'll do my best to get to some as we go. All right. Hi, Gina.
Hi, Sabrina. How are you?
I'm great. Glad to have you here. Thank you so much for being here. It is wild out there. So let's just dive right in. So when it comes to
You
climate,
weren't referring to the weather.
I am not referring to
Okay.
the weather, although the weather's been weird too. It seems to be clearing up. News is coming fast and furious. We know that very well on the climate desk at the Globe. EPA positions slashed, budgets frozen, executive orders running the gamut from pausing offshore wind leasing to trying to dip into the way that states are regulating greenhouse gas emissions. Curious how you would characterize the moment that we're in, and also how you parse the really significant steps from the noise.
Oh, God, that's a tough first question, Sabrina. First, thanks to the Boston Globe and to you for pulling all this together. It's great to be here. And Dennis, thank you for all the work that sustainability offices do. You exhaust me every day. I think you have to cut out the noise. And get down to what are the most significant things that we see happening right now. And frankly, people ask me, what am I most worried about? And obviously, I'm worried about my US EPA, a great agency that's being decimated. But frankly, I'm worried about our democracy even more. And that's what keeps me up at night. What's happening now is in many ways unlawful. And yet we don't seem to have the ability to be able to step back and do something meaningful to stop the kind of agony and devastation that we're seeing in Washington, D.C. and across the states. But I guess what gives me most hope and what I focus most on is what can we do if the federal government has very often, periodically, taken a nap somewhere or been annoying and taking a nap at the same time. And so we just have to focus on what's happening at the state level, what's happening in local communities, how do we keep people engaged, and mostly, how do we continue to have hope and advance opportunities that we have? And that's what I'm focused on.
Yeah. Before we get to the hope, which we will get to,
I
more
hope
in
so.
depth, I promise. I'm still trying to understand, during the last Trump administration, there was a similar phenomenon. News coming at us all the time, all these different changes, rollbacks of regulations, you name it. And then Biden comes in, and there's this moment where, there's the first ever major climate legislation that passes through Congress. There's all this money that's going toward climate work, clean energy work. And now we're back to Trump. And so I guess one of the things that I grapple with is this the pendulum swinging, and can we expect it to swing back? And what are the ways in which the pendulum has swung during this Trump administration that's different, that potentially poses a more lasting threat? And what are those steps when it comes to climate change in particular?
I think that what we're seeing in this Trump administration is very different than what we saw in the first. We could almost dismiss it. It was annoying. They didn't do anything, but now they are doing things. And so I think a couple of things are going on, and one is that they're really focused on restoring fossil fuels. That's not going very well. And for lots of reasons, I don't think it will. And I think clean energy is really taking the field in ways that it is enormously exciting. And it's still happening. I mean, we're still seeing lots of investment, even in the face of the threats of this administration. So all that's good, but what they're really doing that will take time to recoup, and I'll mention two things. One is, they're obviously getting rid of all the scientists, they're cutting down agencies, and basically just pulling them out of their ability to do any work, and that is having not just domestic impacts but international. I mean, I think I was very disturbed by the first Trump administration, but I wasn't worried that it would have global instability as an outcome. We are now a pariah in the world. That's vastly different than the ineptness of the first administration. Now, I'm not saying that they're not still inept, because I believe they are. But what they're doing internationally to destroy the United States reputation and our ability to actually have allies is enormously damaging. And if this keeps swinging back and forth, and then we're running to put a new Democrat in place, and that Democrat will take 2 years to decide what they want to do to restore things, and then you're back to another race. And so it's very difficult. The instability and the reputation of the United States and how it's been really, I won't say destroyed because I don't think it's permanent, but it's embarrassing.
Okay, so you mentioned the Democrats. Let's talk a bit about what the Democrats are and are not doing, because there's been a lot of frustration, I think, in seeing a lack of appropriate, significant reaction from the Democrats. Cory Booker stood up for that filibuster, and everybody went wild because finally it felt like somebody was doing something within the Democratic Party. I mean, what would you like to see? What could be done that is not happening right now?
That's a really good question, because I scratch my head as well. I really applaud Senator Booker, but I don't think anybody's ability to talk for a really long time is going to be a lasting strategy. So I'm glad that he started something. I'm not seeing a Democratic strategy. I don't know what it is. They feel powerless right now. All we're doing is making sure that we have enough lawyers to sue for all of the things that are happening that aren't legal. And I just don't see it. Sabrina, I don't know why I don't see it. I do see, I do see the progressives out there on the stump. But beyond that, everybody seems to be waiting it out. For what, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. Yeah. I haven't seen a strategy, and it's disconcerting. But it's also, I can't really figure out how to put blame on that, because we don't carry Congress. And when you don't carry Congress, this is the result of that.
Yeah. I remember during the first Trump administration, I was reporting on as an Arctic reporter, and I was speaking with all these Arctic researchers who were like, they haven't noticed us yet. So we're trying to keep our heads really low and our profile really low in hope that the stuff that matters to us won't get targeted. Like, do you think there's any of that sort of like defensive turtling?
No. I think one of the biggest challenges that we face is the group that Elon Musk pulled together, because they're everywhere, and their only goal is to destroy the agencies. And so I don't think anybody can really hide very well, but it will catch up for them, but it's going to take some time. And I'm hoping that the Democrats are trying to figure this out. Plus, we have midterms coming, and so I don't want to feel, that we're not doing anything. I'll say the Democrats are. I just don't think right now they can figure out how to stem the tide. And honestly, the federal agencies, the longer they're around, if they figure out how to really dismantle them, which they're trying, but not being hugely successful at, we just need to quickly figure out what's the strategy to keep people in place. Because you cannot rebuild what we're losing without losing tremendous amount of years, because the capacity of the people at the federal level who are working in these agencies is enormous. The history that they know, the science that they understand, the way in which the law is supposed to work, all of those things, factor into every decision. And it's I worry more about the federal workforce and how we can recoup in a quick period of time.
So when you say figure out a strategy to keep people in place, do you mean like a legal strategy? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of what's happening is obviously they just decide to fire people, and you can't, there are rules against that. So everybody's fighting everybody, and everybody's challenging the best they can. But it's, you know, we need better communication around all this. We need to be more visible. We need to show the human toll of this. I don't spend a lot of time, honestly, ever talking about the workforce at these agencies, but I do spend a lot of time talking about the outcome of the actions and who's losing. You know, everything, including climate, and I know you're, Sabrina, you know this as well as I do. If all we talk about is the Arctic, nobody cares. And so similarly, if all we talk about is losing our workforce at the federal level, that's challenging to get people excited about too. So we really have to talk about the human issues, why it should matter to everyday human beings that EPA can't actually reduce air pollution and has to give a 2-year pass to any industry that prefers not to reduce their pollution in the timeline that they're required to do. We need human impacts to engage human beings. Now, I'm not suggesting we're not doing anything. You know, I was at the march, was it just last week? A couple weeks.
Couple weeks ago. Yeah.
And it was phenomenal here. I've never seen this many people in Massachusetts gathered in one place. And that's happening across the country. But it's the clarity we need to bring on the human impacts, the impacts to our kids and our grandchildren. That's what I talk about over and over and over. And that's what we have to keep focused on so that people realize that this is not a game. This is a huge challenge to them and their ability to actually live well.
I think sometimes lost in the conversation too is the idea that there are certain aspects of progress that the train has left the station. And by that I mean, you know, EV sales were up 10% quarter one compared to quarter one of 2024 in the United States. That's even with people trying to get rid of their Teslas as fast as they possibly can.
I did.
There we go. But same when it comes to onshore wind, same when it comes to solar. Obviously, offshore wind is going to be troubled for some time. But you know, I guess what parts of the energy transition beyond that do you think are unstoppable at this point, and that maybe they're going to be slowed in some way, but they're happening regardless?
Well, that is what gives me hope, because clean energy is still going crazy. And a lot of the clean energy that's being constructed now is in Republican districts. And we are beginning to see letters written by 20 Republicans saying we're going to maintain the incentives in the Inflation Reduction Act for clean energy. So it is happening, and there was like $5 billion in the first quarter of this year, but for that private investors have put on the table to continue to advance these new technologies. It's a game changer. That's what's so frustrating about this administration, is they want to revive fossil fuels. Well, it's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. I mean, fossil fuels are doing as much as fossil fuel wants to do, and they can let them do that. But they will be outcompeted because it's cheaper to do clean energy. It's as simple as that, and it makes sense from a human perspective. And it really annoys me when I see, like, Administrator Zeldin just deciding that 31 rules that have been around since 2009 and earlier, all of a sudden up for grabs. It's ridiculous. So why aren't we all just talking about clean energy? Why aren't we doing what BU has done and actually realize that technologies of today are miraculous? And if we grab them, everybody benefits. Everybody. And I think you're going to see that. There doesn't appear to be slowdown in the investments in clean energy now. There really doesn't. And with so much of those investments going to Republican districts, it gives me a sense of security here. Maybe it won't always be here, but it'll be here long enough that the clean energy will begin to win the day, and it already has.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of impacts that everybody can feel, one of the questions that we got from an audience member is, can environmental justice organizations still make progress in advancing climate change with the Trump administration?
Yes, yes they can, and yes they have to. This whole thing, one of the things that bothers me so much, that I find so irrational, is the idea that we would be questioning our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion in the name of protecting anti-Semitism. How does that work? I mean, seriously, if you break it down, it's nonsense. So I think we've got environmental justice advocates all over the place continuing to do work. Yes, they took away environmental justice offices across the federal government, but all of those people now are organizing together. We have lots of folks doing legal work to try to make sure that their path is clear to work. And if there's any group that's stronger than the environmental justice constituencies that I know, then let me know what their names are, because I don't know anybody better or stronger or more capable than the environmental justice advocates. And we all have to stand with them, because we cannot let, this administration stop our ability to recognize the need for people to be able to have a voice in their government and a voice in their local communities. And I'm spending now a lot more of my time with Bloomberg Philanthropies and this America is All In thing, because it's fun and exciting. We're now seeing like dozens and dozens of governors and mayors standing up. We're finding business leaders, 70 of them that just joined America is All In just last month, because they know that this is the future. All of us are looking at it going, what the hell happened in Washington, D.C.? I ask myself that every day. Well, we're answering that question. Yeah, there are a bunch of not very capable human beings. Wasn't that nice of me? I
think that was a euphemism.
Yeah. They're not nice, they're not smart, they're not capable, and we're going to run circles around them. So that's the way we have to think, and that's the way we have to build hope. And I'm excited about young people who are beginning to really get engaged in this. And the opportunities, I think, are endless to just continue to keep pushing. And I really hope the environmental justice advocates, I mean, what this administration has done to try to deter them is just nauseating. But they're not going to be torn down any more than the rest of us. We're all going to stand up and we're going to fight.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting with the organization that you're with now, America's All In, because I remember during the first Trump administration when it sort of started to build this idea, okay, Trump's leaving the Paris Agreement, pulling the United States out, all of this momentum, okay, we're still in, we're still going to be working toward those commitments. Trump comes in second time around, that framework already exists. And so, I mean, it sounds like you're seeing a lot of growth. Like, what does the mission look like on the ground for continuing progress, even in the face of all this?
I think it's a couple of things. One of the whole idea of America is All In is to give people a sense of unity again and opportunity. That's really what it's all about. So we're asking governors like Governor Pritzker and Governor Newsom, and we've got some great mayors like Mayor Bibb in Cleveland. What they're doing is standing up and questioning the authority of this government and what it's doing. But more, they're trying to highlight the opportunities available in every state. And so it's all about looking at those opportunities, because we're not hearing a lot about state governments, standing up against clean energy. Nobody's doing that. It's just kind of dumb to do, right? I mean, it matters. So America's All In is all about just getting people a sense that they can actually do something on the ground. Just because this administration is trying to dismantle our ability to really progress in this country. So everybody else is all about making sure people know that we can continue to move forward, and we are.
All right. Well, on that note, which I think was a hopeful one, as promised, we are unfortunately out of time. Gina, thank you so much for being here with us today and for speaking with us. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Next up, stick around. We've got a great panel coming up called Beyond Plastic, moderated by Globe Climate editor Jason Margolis. So stay tuned.
Thanks, everybody.